The Mafia boss feigned amnesia, his family betrayed him, but a poor cleaner became his true ally. The first bullet missed Floyd's head by 2 inches. The second killed his driver. The third told him everything he needed to know. Someone in his family wanted him dead. So the most dangerous man in the city did the most dangerous thing possible. He pretended to forget who he was. Faked amnesia. Came home broken and helpless to see which family member would finish what the ambush started. Turns out, all of them. His mother started transferring his money within hours. His brothers divided his territories by day 3. By day 6, they were celebrating his destruction with his own expensive whiskey, laughing about the cripple who used to be their boss. But Floyd heard everything, remembered everything, recorded everything. And the cleaner who'd worked in his house for 3 years, the one person with nothing to gain, became the only person willing to risk her life to protect his. This is the story of how a mafia boss lost his family and found something more powerful than blood. Before we start, let me know in the comment section which country in this beautiful world you are watching from, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this amazing channel. That way, YouTube will keep showing you wonderful stories from this channel. Now, let's begin.
Floyd commanded an empire built on fear. The kind of man whose name alone could silence a room, whose word was law in the city's shadows, whose fortress mansion stood as a monument to power earned through blood and cunning. He had soldiers who would die for him, enemies who trembled at his approach, and wealth that could buy anything, except the one answer that haunted his sleepless nights. Did his family love him, or did they love what he could give them? Abandoned as a child, Floyd had clawed his way from nothing to everything. He'd learned early that loyalty was a currency, that trust was a weapon others used against you. In his world, betrayal from an enemy meant swift death. But betrayal from blood? That was the one rule he'd never had to enforce. His mother managed his finances. His 2 younger brothers controlled territories under his command. They were the only people allowed past his guards, the only ones who could get close enough to destroy him. And that terrified him more than any rival ever had. After surviving an ambush that left him shaken and suspicious, Floyd made a decision that would either confirm his darkest fears or grant him peace. He would stage the ultimate test, one so dangerous it could cost him everything. With his doctor's help, he would fake complete amnesia, erasing every memory of who he was, what he owned, and who they were. He would return home as a broken man, powerless and vulnerable, and watch what his family did when they thought he couldn't remember, couldn't fight back, couldn't stop them. It was reckless, potentially fatal in a world where weakness was a death sentence. But it was the only way to see their true faces. The mansion staff received strict orders to maintain the deception, all except Maria, the quiet cleaner with kind eyes who'd worked in his home for 3 years, who cleaned his office without asking about the blood, who moved through his dangerous world with a gentleness that felt out of place. When she accidentally discovered him practicing his confusion in private, Floyd made a choice that surprised even himself. He trusted her with the truth. Maria agreed to help, though her voice carried concern. In a world like yours, Mr. Floyd, showing weakness, even pretending, could get you killed. Floyd's response was cold and certain. In my world, you can't ask who loves you. You can only watch what they do when you have nothing left to give. The test began the moment he returned home, his eyes vacant, his movements uncertain, his empire suddenly within reach of those who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. And what his mother and brothers did next would prove more brutal than any war he'd ever fought. Floyd stood in his war room, fingers tracing the mapped territories that painted the city in shades of power. 3 districts, 17 gambling operations, 23 protection routes. An empire built from nothing, controlled from this fortress mansion where armed guards patrolled manicured gardens and surveillance cameras watched every shadow. The monitors flickered with live feeds, his soldiers on corners, his money moving through the veins of the city, his enemies keeping their distance. He'd built something untouchable, something that commanded respect through fear alone. Street captains lowered their eyes when he passed. Rival bosses crossed the street to avoid his path. Politicians answered his calls on the first ring. Floyd Moretti's name carried weight that could crush or elevate, destroy or protect. He'd earned every ounce of that power, clawed it from the gutters where he'd been abandoned as a child. The orphanage had taught him that family was a lie people told themselves. The streets had taught him that loyalty was just another transaction. And blood. Blood was supposed to be different. But late at night, when the guards changed shifts and the mansion fell into its watchful silence, Floyd sat alone in his bedroom. Massive, expensive, empty, and stared at the photo on his nightstand. His mother, Sophia, elegant and composed, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. His brothers, Marco and Luca, flanking him in the picture like sentinels. They were the only people allowed past his security. The only ones who could walk through doors that stayed locked to everyone else. The only ones who could get close enough to destroy him. Sophia managed his financial empire with cold intelligence that would impress any Wall Street executive. She'd raised him after his father's death, taught him the business, positioned herself as the spine of his operation. Marco, 35 and hungry, controlled the North Territories with an ambition that never seemed satisfied. Luca, 2 years younger and twice as calculating, ran the South with strategic precision that sometimes felt too perfect. They were his blood, his family, the people he was supposed to trust without question. So why did he lie awake questioning everything? The whispers had started months ago, spreading through his organization like smoke. Floyd had no heir, no wife, no children. When the inevitable happened, when a bullet found its mark or a rival made the right move, who would inherit this empire? The question hung in the air at every meeting, lurked behind every conversation. And lately, the attempts on his life had increased. Bolder moves. Better intelligence. Someone was feeding information to his enemies. In Floyd's world, you learned to trust no one. Paranoia wasn't a character flaw, it was a survival skill. But what happened when you couldn't trust blood? When the only people who could slip past your defenses were the ones who shared your name? He'd watched them at dinner the previous night, gathered around his table, laughing, toasting his health, playing their parts with practiced ease. But something felt wrong. Something felt rehearsed. Like actors who'd memorized their lines but forgotten to feel the words. Marco's smile was too wide. Luca's silence too calculated. Sophia's maternal concern too perfectly timed. Through the doorway, Floyd glimpsed Maria, the quiet cleaner who'd worked in his mansion for 3 years. She moved through his office with the same efficiency she always did, dusting around the guns on his desk, straightening papers near stacks of cash, never asking questions, never showing judgment. Just quietly working, existing in his dangerous world without trying to change it or exploit it. The contrast struck him. Maria, who had nothing to gain from him, showed more genuine care in her silent presence than his family did with all their theatrical devotion. Floyd turned back to his maps, his territories, his empire. He'd built all of this on the principle that weakness was death. That vulnerability was a weapon others used against you. That trust was the fastest way to a grave. But he needed to know the truth. He needed certainty before succession became crisis, before whispers became action, before suspicion became reality. And in his world, the only way to see someone's true face was to show them weakness they think you can't fake. The idea was forming. Reckless. Dangerous. Potentially fatal. But necessary. Because surrounded by blood, sitting atop an empire, commanding the respect of an entire city, Floyd had never felt more alone. And he needed to know if that loneliness was justified, or if somewhere in his fortress, genuine loyalty still existed. He just had to be willing to risk everything to find out. The first bullet shattered Floyd's rear window at precisely 11:47 p.m. His driver's head snapped forward, and the convoy erupted into chaos. Muzzle flashes from both sides of the dark road, the SUV behind them exploding in a ball of orange flame, his own vehicle swerving as the backup driver grabbed the wheel. Floyd's training kicked in before thought did. He rolled to the floor, drew his weapon, returned fire through the broken glass. 3 seconds. That's all the advantage surprise gave them. After that, it was survival. When the smoke cleared, Floyd stood among the wreckage with blood streaming from a gash above his temple and 3 bodies that weren't his. His security had responded fast enough to save him, but barely. This wasn't some rival's desperate move. This was professional. Precise. Too well planned. Dr. Chen's private clinic smelled like antiseptic and old loyalty. He'd stitched Floyd's wounds before, back when they were both street kids with nothing but ambition and survival instinct. Now Chen had a legitimate practice, and Floyd had an empire. But trust, real trust, was rarer than either. "You're lucky," Chen said, his needle pulling thread through Floyd's scalp. 2 inches lower, and we're not having this conversation. Luck had nothing to do with it. Floyd's jaw tightened as his security captain entered, tablet in hand, face grim. The investigation results were damning. The ambush location was on a route Floyd rarely took, except his schedule had been changed last minute due to a security concern that now looked like bait. The attackers knew his convoy configuration, his backup protocols, even which vehicle he'd be in. Someone had given them everything. Inside information, the captain confirmed. Had to be someone with access to your daily briefings. Floyd's hands clenched. My family gets those briefings. The room went silent. If someone wants me dead, Floyd said slowly, his voice cold as winter steel, they're already close. Close enough to be family. Chen's needle paused mid-stitch. You think your own blood? In this business, blood is just another word for access. Floyd met his old friend's eyes. And I need to know who's using it. The idea crystallized in that moment, born from pain and paranoia and the brutal logic of survival. When Chen finished stitching, Floyd laid it out. The amnesia. The test. The only way to see their true faces. Absolutely not. Chen stepped back. Too dangerous. If they find out you're faking, then I'm already dead anyway. Floyd stood, testing his balance. I survive by knowing my enemies. I can't fight what I can't see. It took an hour of persuasion, but Chen finally agreed. The medical staging was elegant in its simplicity. The head injury was real, the symptoms would be manufactured, the diagnosis would be official. MRI scans carefully misread. Records meticulously falsified. A documented case of traumatic amnesia that would withstand scrutiny. For 3 days, Floyd practiced. He stood in his office forgetting his own name. Stared at maps without recognition. Asked his reflection who he was. The staff he trusted, the ones who'd bled with him not just for him, were briefed on the deception. Everyone else, including his family, would believe the lie. On the 4th night, Maria entered to clean and found him mid-rehearsal. His confusion dropping away as he reached for a glass of water with perfect coordination. She froze in the doorway. Floyd turned, and their eyes met in a moment of absolute exposure. How long have you been standing there? His voice carried no threat, only calculation. Long enough. Maria's hands tightened on her cleaning supplies. You're pretending. Floyd studied her. 3 years of silent presence, of cleaning around evidence, of never asking questions that could get her killed. He'd never noticed her, not really. She was furniture. Background. Safe. Maybe that was exactly what he needed. You've worked here 3 years, he said carefully. You've seen things. Never asked questions. Never tried to leverage what you know. I clean houses, Mr. Floyd. Not just yours. Maria's voice was steady despite her fear. What people do isn't my business. I need it to be. Just this once. Floyd stepped closer, lowering his voice. I need eyes and ears while I'm helpless. Someone I can trust to watch them while I can't protect myself. In your world, pretending to be weak. Maria's hands trembled now. That could get you killed. I won't be pretending. I'll be genuinely helpless, vulnerable, exposed. Floyd's honesty surprised even himself. That's why I need someone who won't use that against me. Maria looked at him for a long moment, seeing past the crime lord to the man beneath. Isolated, paranoid, desperate for truth in a world built on lies. If they try to hurt you, she said finally, really hurt you, I'm ending this. Test or no test. Agreed. Her hand trembled as she nodded, understanding flooding her features. She'd just agreed to become part of a Mafia power play. To stand between a crime boss and his potentially murderous family. To be the only person who knew the truth. That night, Floyd stood before his bathroom mirror, memorizing his own reflection. His scars. His eyes. The man he'd built from nothing. Because tomorrow he would forget all of it. Tomorrow he would become helpless in his own fortress. And somewhere in that vulnerability, he'd finally see the truth about blood, loyalty, and who would stand beside him when he had nothing left to offer but his broken self. The medical transport pulled through gates that should have felt like home but looked alien through Floyd's carefully unfocused eyes. He moved slowly, each step measured and uncertain, as orderlies helped him from the vehicle. The mansion loomed before him, his fortress, his kingdom, and he stared at it with manufactured confusion. "Where am I?" His voice came out weak, lost. The guards flanking the entrance shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to recognize the man they'd served for years. Their discomfort was genuine, even if his condition wasn't. Floyd let them guide him forward, his body leaning on their support, his mind cataloging every detail with predatory clarity. The foyer stretched before him like a stage, and his family stood assembled at its center. Sophia, his mother, wore black, elegant, composed, her posture perfectly straight. Marco and Luca flanked her like bookends, their expressions somber, formal, tense. They looked like mourners at a funeral, not family welcoming home an injured loved one. Floyd's eyes found his mother's face. No recognition, no warmth. Just a question that should break any parent's heart. "Who are you?" For a split second, less than a heartbeat, something cold flickered across Sophia's features. Not grief, not concern, something calculating. Then the mask slid into place, and she pressed her hand to her chest in a gesture of practiced dismay. But she didn't move forward, didn't rush to embrace him, didn't even step closer. She simply assessed him from a distance, like a jeweler examining a stone for flaws. Marco and Luca exchanged a look over her shoulder. Floyd caught it, that silent communication between brothers. Not grief, not shock, opportunity. Dr. Chen stepped forward, professional and grave. Severe traumatic amnesia. He has no memory of his identity, his business, or his family. Recovery timeline is uncertain. Does he understand language? Sophia's voice was crisp, businesslike. Not "how do you feel?" Not "are you in pain?" Her first question dissected his cognitive function. Can he comprehend legal documents? Marco added, his tone just concerned enough to sound legitimate. Can he still sign things? Is he legally competent? The question hung in the air like a blade. Chen's answer was deliberately vague. Technically, if he can write his name, he can sign. But his comprehension is severely limited. We'll discuss this privately. Sophia cut through any further questions with surgical precision. Take him upstairs. Floyd allowed himself to be led away, compliant as a child, overwhelmed by the enormity of his own home. He stumbled on the stairs, a nice touch, he thought, and let the guard steady him. Behind him, as they ascended, voices drifted up from the foyer. His family thought he was too far away to hear. They were wrong. How long until we can move assets? Sophia's voice, stripped of maternal warmth. We need to be careful. Luca's strategic caution. The organization will notice. Only if he recovers. Marco's words carried weight. What if he doesn't? Then we adapt. Quickly. In the hallway, Maria stood frozen, her arms full of fresh linens. Her face had gone pale, horror written in every line. She'd heard it too, every mercenary word. Floyd was led to his bedroom. His own bedroom that he now had to pretend not to recognize. The guards helped him sit on the bed, then retreated, closing the door with uncomfortable finality. He sat there, expression blank, hands folded in his lap like an obedient patient. The door opened softly. Maria entered with a glass of water, her movements gentle, her eyes refusing to meet his. She'd heard his family's cold calculation, and now she had to pretend everything was normal while helping him drink. Here, she whispered, holding the glass steady. Slowly. Her hands trembled. She couldn't look at him, couldn't reconcile the man who'd survived ambushes and commanded armies with this vulnerable figure on the bed. But more than that, she couldn't reconcile what she'd just heard from his family. Floyd's internal confirmation crystallized. First test passed. They'd failed immediately. No grace period. No love. No hesitation before plotting to divide his empire like he was already dead. Pure opportunism wrapped in the thinnest veneer of concern. Downstairs, in her private office, Sophia was already on the phone. Floyd couldn't hear the conversation, but he could imagine it. Maria, returning with the empty glass, confirmed it with a whispered update. Your mother is calling accountants, asking about temporary guardianship procedures. In the study, Marco and Luca had poured themselves drinks from Floyd's personal collection, the expensive scotch he saved for celebrations. They toasted each other, voices carrying through the ventilation system Floyd had installed for exactly this kind of intelligence gathering. This could actually work in our favor. Marco's ambition finally unleashed. We've waited long enough. Time to take what we've earned. Luca's cold pragmatism. What if he remembers? A moment of doubt from Marco. Luca's response made Floyd's blood run cold even as his face remained blank. Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance to act on it. Not just theft. Not just opportunism. They were planning permanence. Planning to ensure his condition became irreversible. One way or another. Maria stood in the corner of Floyd's room, her back against the wall, processing the same realization. Mr. Floyd, she whispered, then caught herself, remembering he wasn't supposed to understand complex speech. But her eyes met his for just a second, and in that glance she communicated everything. She understood now. This wasn't just a test of loyalty. This was a fight for survival. Night fell over the mansion. Maria left reluctantly, after ensuring Floyd was comfortable, after checking 3 times that he had water, that he wasn't in pain, that he knew where the bathroom was. Her care stood in stark contrast to the family who hadn't visited once. Floyd lay in bed, eyes open in the darkness, staring at the ceiling he'd looked at for years. Maria's warning echoed in his memory. In your world, showing weakness could get you killed. She'd been right. But she'd also been conservative in her assessment. Showing weakness wouldn't just get him killed. It would get him erased. Declared incompetent. Locked away. Medicated into permanent fog. His empire stolen, his autonomy destroyed. His entire existence reduced to a signature on documents transferring everything to the people who'd never loved him. They weren't waiting to see if he'd recover. They were already planning how to ensure he wouldn't. Through the walls, he heard his mother's voice on another call. Cold. Efficient. Businesslike. Already moving on his assets, his accounts, his life's work. Not a mother's voice heavy with grief. A vulture's voice, calculating the division of meat. Floyd's hands clenched beneath the blankets. The only outward sign of the fury building in his chest. He'd given them a test, expecting greed. He'd found something worse. Not just opportunistic betrayal, but premeditated destruction. The test had revealed the truth in less than 3 hours. Now he just had to survive long enough to do something about it. Morning broke over the mansion like a declaration of war, though only Floyd recognized it as such. In her office, Sophia's fingers moved across her laptop with practiced efficiency, transferring funds to accounts labeled Secure Holdings. Down the hall, Marco sat in Floyd's chair, his chair, addressing captains with barely concealed satisfaction, explaining that until Floyd recovers, he'd be handling North Territory operations. In the study, Luca meticulously redirected profit streams into separate ledgers, his quiet efficiency more dangerous than Marco's ambition. Upstairs, Maria helped Floyd button his shirt with patient hands. This is your bathroom, she explained gently, guiding him through his own space like it was foreign territory. Here's how the shower works. The left handle is hot, right is cold. She spoke without condescension, treating him like a person who'd temporarily lost his way, not a problem to be managed. At breakfast, she cut his food into manageable pieces without making a show of it. The gesture so natural he almost missed its significance. No onions in his eggs, She remembered from 3 years of silent observation that he hated them. Coffee at exactly the temperature he preferred, though he was supposed to have forgotten that preference. "You're kind to me," Floyd said, maintaining his confused effect. "Everyone deserves kindness, Mr. Floyd. Especially when they're struggling." The small gestures accumulated like evidence. She adjusted the curtains because bright morning light bothered his eyes, a detail she'd noticed years ago. She brought his newspaper even though he couldn't read it, placing it beside his coffee like maintaining his routine mattered. When anxiety flickered across his carefully blank expression, she sat with him instead of rushing to her next task. "Your memory will return," she said softly. "Until it does, you're not alone. I'm here." Floyd's internal monologue crystallized with uncomfortable clarity. 3 years she'd worked here. 3 years of quiet competence he'd never acknowledged. He'd been too busy watching for knives to notice the one person not holding a blade. Downstairs, his family sharpened theirs. Sophia's meeting with lawyers dissected incapacity proceedings with surgical precision. Marco told captains that Floyd was stepping back for health reasons, his tone suggesting permanence rather than recovery. Luca spread carefully worded rumors through the organization, painting Floyd's condition as irreversible while maintaining plausible deniability. At lunch, they gathered in the dining room, elegant, expensive, empty of warmth. Floyd could hear them through the ventilation system he'd installed. "We move in phases," Sophia instructed. "First, secure the legitimate holdings." "What about the organization?" Marco's concern was tactical, not moral. "They won't accept us without his blessing." Luca's response was chilling in its simplicity. "Then we get his blessing. He can still write his name, can't he? We'll handle it delicately." Sophia's voice carried the confidence of decades of manipulation. "No one questions a sick man protecting his family." Marco's laughter echoed through the walls. "Protecting us? That's rich." In his room, Maria brought lunch on a tray. Homemade soup, the kind that required effort and care. "My grandmother's recipe," she explained, setting it before him. "Easy to eat." Floyd looked at her, really looked, and let a question slip that tested the boundaries of his act. "Even people like me?" He needed to know if she understood what he was, what he'd built his empire on. "Do people like me deserve kindness?" Maria's answer was honest, unflinching. "I know what you do. What happens in this house." Her eyes held his. "But that doesn't mean you don't deserve someone who cares." She saw all of him, the violence, the crime, the blood-soaked foundation of his wealth, and chose compassion anyway. Not naive compassion that ignored reality, but deliberate kindness that acknowledged it and cared regardless. The realization hit Floyd with unexpected force. She knew exactly who he was, and stayed. That afternoon, an assistant arrived with documents requiring Floyd's signature. Property transfers. Account authorizations. Maria stood nearby watching. As the assistant laid papers on the desk, she moved to adjust a vase of flowers and accidentally knocked over a glass of water. The liquid spread across the documents, rendering them unusable. "Oh no," she said, not quite managing to sound apologetic. "I'm so clumsy. I'll get towels." The assistant left, irritated, to get new copies. Floyd watched Maria clean up the mess, understanding flooding through him. She was protecting him, actively sabotaging his family's plans with the kind of subtle resistance they'd never see coming. Evening light painted the sitting room gold. Maria helped Floyd to the window, describing the view like he couldn't see it himself. "That's your city out there. You built something that will last." Floyd let his character slip just slightly. What if it wasn't worth building? Maria's wisdom came without judgment or preaching. Then you change what it becomes. It's never too late. Her words offered redemption he hadn't asked for, forgiveness he didn't deserve, and hope he'd stopped believing existed. That night, while his family celebrated in the study with his expensive whiskey, counting their chickens before they'd hatched, Floyd lay in his room surrounded by small acts of care. The blanket Maria had adjusted to the perfect weight. The glass of water on his nightstand, positioned where he could reach it easily. The lamp set at exactly the brightness that wouldn't hurt his eyes but would comfort him if he woke. She expected nothing from him. They expected everything. How had he missed this for 3 years? Maria paused at his door before leaving, turning back with a smile that held no agenda. Rest well, Mr. Floyd. Tomorrow's another day. Simple human decency in a house full of vultures. And Floyd, lying in darkness, understood that his test had revealed more than his family's betrayal. It had exposed his own blindness. 3 years of ignoring the only genuine thing in his manufactured world. By day 6, his family had stopped pretending to care. Floyd's office, his private sanctuary where he'd built an empire from blood and strategy, now belonged to Marco and Luca. They'd made themselves comfortable. Marco's feet rested on Floyd's desk, expensive leather shoes scuffing the mahogany surface. Luca smoked one of Floyd's personal cigars, the kind reserved for closed deals and eliminated rivals. His personal safe hung open, rifled through like a corpse's pockets. On the walls, his photos were already coming down, replaced by theirs. Maria wheeled Floyd into the room, her excuse about fresh air and movement barely masking her real intention. Keeping him visible, making sure they couldn't do anything without witness. She positioned him by the window, where he could stare blankly at the garden while his brothers divided his kingdom. They forgot he was there almost immediately. Looking at the territories, I should have had the north side years ago. Marco traced boundaries on the map with proprietary satisfaction. Floyd always underestimated me, kept me in his shadow like I was still some street corner punk. He walked past Floyd's chair and kicked it, casual and cruel. Move over, big brother. Luca exhaled smoke, his laughter cold. The great Floyd, reduced to a drooling infant who can't remember his own name. He approached Floyd, snapping his fingers inches from his face. All that power, all that fear he commanded. Gone. Just like that. Nobody home. Floyd's knuckles went white where they gripped the chair arms, but his expression remained slack, maintaining the blank stare through sheer force of will while rage built like pressure behind a dam. At least he's useful now, Marco said, settling back into Floyd's chair, his chair, keeping the seat warm until we need it. Should we put him in a nursing home? Luca crushed the cigar in Floyd's personal ashtray. Get him out of the way. Mother says we keep him here. Better optics. Marco's smile was sharp. The loving family caring for their sick boss. They both laughed, the sound echoing off walls that had witnessed Floyd's rise from nothing. Now those same walls heard his brothers mock that journey, dismiss that power, erase that history like it meant nothing. The territory division began in earnest. They drew new boundaries on his maps, decided which captains to promote and which to eliminate, discussed his offshore accounts with the casual entitlement of heirs rather than the cautious greed of thieves. That's at least 50 million we can access once the paperwork clears, Luca noted, circling account numbers. More if we liquidate the overseas holdings. The door opened. Maria entered with a tea tray, her presence a deliberate interruption. She saw Luca snap his fingers in Floyd's face again. Heard Marco call him the cripple with laughing dismissal. Her jaw tightened, eyes narrowing with an anger that transformed her gentle features into something fierce. Show some respect, she said, her voice cutting through their mockery. He's your brother. Marco barely glanced at her. Stay in your lane, cleaner. This is family business. What's wrong? Luca's smile was predatory. Feeling protective of the cripple? Careful, Maria. Marco's tone shifted from dismissive to threatening. When we're in charge, employees who overstep don't last long. She should have backed down. Any reasonable person would have. Instead, Maria set down the tea tray with deliberate care and stood her ground. Family doesn't treat each other like this. Whatever you think you're doing, it's wrong. Luca moved closer, using his size to intimidate. You work for us now. Remember that. Keep your mouth shut about what you hear, or you'll find yourself cleaning houses in a much worse neighborhood. Floyd's body language shifted, still maintaining his confused effect, but muscle tension changing, protective instinct triggering despite the act. His hands moved to the chair arms as if to rise. Look at that. Marco's mockery reached new heights. The broken dog wants to protect his keeper. How touching. But Maria didn't retreat. She stood between Floyd and his brothers, tiny and trembling but defiant. I'll keep my mouth shut. But so will you. He deserves dignity. Marco's slow applause dripped with sarcasm. Such loyalty. Wasted on a man who won't remember you defended him. Get out, Luca ordered. Take your pet with you. Maria helped Floyd stand, her hands gentle despite their shaking. He trembled too. They would think it was confusion, but she could feel the coiled violence in his muscles, rage barely contained beneath the performance. As they reached the door, Luca called after them. Hey Maria, when we sell this place, you're the first expense we're cutting. In the hallway, Maria's hand shook with anger and fear and adrenaline. Floyd maintained his uncertain shuffle, but his hand found hers. The squeeze was brief, could have been confused seeking comfort, but she felt the controlled strength in it, the deliberate communication. She looked at him. For just a moment, his eyes met hers with crystal clarity before the blank expression returned. Something passed between them, an understanding that transcended his supposed condition. I won't let them destroy you, she whispered. Floyd's internal breakthrough was seismic. She'd defended him from his own blood. Risked her job, maybe her safety, probably her life in a world where crossing the wrong people meant disappearing. For what? Nothing to gain. Everything to lose. She'd stood up because it was right, not because it was smart. Back in the office, Marco poured more of Floyd's liquor. We need to do something about that cleaner. After we're secure, Luca agreed. For now, let her play nurse. Keeps Floyd occupied and out of important rooms. When this is over, she goes. Marco's voice carried finality. Along with anyone else loyal to him. Clean sweep. Fresh start. The implication hung in the air like gun smoke. They weren't just planning to steal his empire. They were planning to erase everyone who remembered Floyd as he was. A complete purge of loyalty, leaving only those who served the new regime. And Maria, who'd just shown she'd never serve them, was first on that list. Evening settled over the mansion like a shroud. Maria brought dinner to Floyd's room, her movements careful, her concern evident in every gesture. He sat on the edge of his bed, maintaining his lost expression, but something childlike crept into his voice when he spoke. Maria, does my mother love me? The question hung in the air, innocent and devastating. Maria's heart fractured at the vulnerability in it. She knew what she'd overheard, what his family had revealed in their unguarded moments. How did she answer a question like that? I'm sure she does, Mr. Floyd. In her own way. His eyes found hers, genuinely confused, needing an answer he couldn't remember. What way is that? I don't remember. How does a mother show love? Maria's throat tightened. She described what should be. The embraces, the worry, the checking in, the gentle touches that said you matter, you're safe, you're cherished. Every word felt like a knife because she knew Sophia had shown none of it. Down the hall, in her private study, Sophia spread incompetency papers across her desk like battle plans. The family lawyer sat across from her, professional and grave. With the medical documentation, we can have him declared legally incompetent within 2 weeks, he explained. You'll be appointed conservator of his estate and business interests. 2 weeks is too long. Sophia's voice carried the same cold efficiency she brought to every business transaction. What's the expedited process? Emergency petition citing immediate risk to assets. Could be done in 72 hours. Do it. The lawyer hesitated, his professional mask slipping. Mrs. Moretti, I have to ask. Is this truly in his best interest? Sophia's laugh was bitter, sharp. His best interest. I've spent 30 years serving his best interest. His father's, then his. When is it my turn? The lawyer fell silent, shock registering in his widening eyes. I married Giovanni Moretti for his money, Sophia continued, her carefully maintained facade crumbling to reveal something ruthless beneath. I tolerated his criminal empire because it made me rich. When he died, I tolerated his son for the same reason. You never loved. Love. Sophia poured herself wine with steady hands. Love is a fairy tale poor people tell themselves. I loved the lifestyle, the power, the respect his name commanded. That's what I loved. Her confession spilled out like poison finally released. Floyd was useful when he was strong. He expanded the empire, multiplied the wealth. But now he's a liability. A broken tool. And I don't keep broken tools. She explained her 30-year plan with the pride of an architect describing their masterpiece. The separate accounts she'd always maintained. Her position as trusted financial manager. The careful preparation for this exact transition. I knew eventually he'd either be killed or weakened. All crime bosses fall. I just had to wait. He's your son, the lawyer said weakly. Sophia's response was chilling in its clinical detachment. He's my husband's son. I'm just the woman who raised him. There's a difference. She outlined the full scope with businesslike precision. Once she had conservatorship, she'd control everything. The legitimate businesses, the criminal operations, the offshore accounts, the properties. Complete and legal ownership of an empire built on another man's blood. And if he recovers? The lawyer asked. If his memory returns? Sophia's pause lasted only a heartbeat. Then we'll revisit his treatment options. I'm sure his doctor can recommend more intensive care. The implication landed like a death sentence. She'd keep him medicated, institutionalized, permanently impaired rather than relinquish control. The lawyer left, visibly disturbed but complicit, papers in hand. Sophia poured more wine and raised her glass to the empty room. To 30 years of patience. Finally paying off. In the hallway outside her study, Floyd stood in shadows. He'd heard every word. Every revelation. Every casual dismissal of 30 years he'd believed meant something. His carefully maintained blank expression cracked. Devastation bled through. Raw, absolute, existential. Not just the betrayal of opportunism, but the revelation that he'd never been loved. Not once. Not ever. 30 years of maternal care had been nothing but performance, transaction, tolerance in exchange for wealth. He staggered back, nearly breaking character entirely. Caught himself. Forced the blankness back into place. Mr. Floyd. Maria appeared from the kitchen, concern flooding her features as she found him in the hallway. What are you doing out here? For a moment, just a moment, she saw the real man. Utterly broken. Completely devastated. Then he recovered the act. His voice small and lost. I got lost. Looking for my room. Maria's eyes moved from him to the study door and back. Her intuition sensed something catastrophic had just occurred. Come on. Let's get you back. In his room, Floyd sat heavily on the bed and picked up the family photo from his nightstand. His father holding baby Floyd, Sophia beside them smiling. That smile that had seemed warm in memory now revealed itself as the lie it had always been. Maria watched tears form in his eyes. Mr. Floyd. I don't know who I am, he said, barely maintaining character. But I know I'm alone. She sat beside him without hesitation. You're not alone. I'm here. Why? His question was genuine beneath the act. Why do you care? Maria's answer was simple, profound. Because someone should. Because you're a person who deserves kindness, no matter what you can or can't remember. Her hand covered his. Gentle, warm, human. Floyd's internal world collapsed around that touch. His mother had never touched him like this. With actual care instead of performance. With compassion instead of calculation. In the hallway, Sophia walked past Floyd's closed door without pausing. Didn't check if he was okay. Didn't wonder if he needed anything. Just continued to her luxurious suite, already mentally counting her future wealth. The contrast was absolute. Maria's genuine presence versus Sophia's complete indifference. Floyd's transformation crystallized in that moment. He'd been testing them for loyalty. But Maria was showing him something he'd never known existed. Real love wasn't about blood or obligation. It was about choice. And she was choosing him when she had every reason not to. Morning of the 9th day arrived with the finality of a funeral. Floyd's office had been transformed into a courtroom. His desk cleared of everything except official documents bearing raised seals and legal letterhead. Sophia sat behind it now, perfectly composed in black, flanked by Marco and Luca like sentries. A lawyer Floyd didn't recognize arranged papers with practiced efficiency. 2 men in cheap suits, paid witnesses obviously, stood near the window trying to look legitimate. Maria wheeled Floyd in, her hands gentle on the wheelchair they'd insisted he use. He kept his eyes unfocused, his posture slack, but felt her trembling through the handles. "Mr. Moretti." The lawyer's voice carried bureaucratic authority. "We need witness signatures confirming your inability to manage your affairs." Sophia pressed her hand to her chest, the picture of maternal concern. "This is so difficult, Floyd. But it's for your own good. We're protecting you." The incompetency papers spread across the desk like a death sentence. Legal language. Official stamps. Spaces for signatures that would erase him completely. The lawyer turned to Maria. "Miss, as a household employee who's witnessed his condition daily, we need you to sign as witness." "No." Maria's voice cut through the formality like a blade. "I won't sign this." Sophia's composure cracked for a heartbeat. "Excuse me. I won't be part of this." Maria stepped around the wheelchair, positioning herself between Floyd and the desk. "Whatever this is, it's wrong." The lawyer straightened, offended. "Miss, this is a legal proceeding. Refusal to cooperate." "I don't care if it's legal." Maria's hands clenched at her sides. "It's not right." Marco moved closer, using his size to intimidate. "You're an employee, Maria. You don't have a choice. I'm a human being." She didn't back down an inch. "And I do have a choice. I choose not to help you steal from him." The word steal detonated in the elegant office like a grenade. Sophia rose slowly, fury bleeding through her maternal mask. "How dare you? We're his family. We're protecting his interests." "His interests?" Maria's voice shook with righteous anger. "You haven't visited his room once. You don't ask how he's feeling. You only ask about documents and accounts." Luca stepped forward, physically intimidating. "You're crossing a line, cleaner." "The line was crossed when you started treating him like he's already dead." Sophia's composure shattered completely. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. And I'll make sure you never work in this city again." Maria's chin lifted. "Then I'm fired. But I won't help you destroy him." Marco grabbed her arm, fingers digging in. "Time to go." Floyd stood. The movement was sudden, instinctive. Everyone froze. He positioned himself between Maria and his brother, body language shifting from helpless to protective despite the confused expression he forced onto his face. "Don't." His voice came out uncertain, childlike. "Don't hurt her. She's nice to me." Marco laughed, cruel and dismissive. "Look at this. The broken boss trying to protect his maid. Doesn't even know who he is," Luca added, "but plays guard dog." Sophia's order came cold and final. "Remove them both. Put Floyd in his room. Get her off the property." Maria tried to pull away. "I'll leave. But I'm calling Adult Protective Services. Someone needs to." Marco's hand clamped over her mouth. "You're not calling anyone." They dragged her toward the door, and Floyd's fists clenched so hard his nails drew blood from his palms. Every instinct screamed to drop the act, to destroy them where they stood. But not yet. Not quite yet. "Don't give up, Mr. Floyd," Maria shouted as they hauled her into the hallway. "Remember who you are." The door slammed. Floyd stood alone with the vultures. "Now." Sophia settled back into his chair with satisfaction. "Let's proceed properly." The paid witnesses stepped forward. Papers appeared before Floyd again. His mother's voice came soft, coaxing. "Just sign, Floyd. It's easier this way." His hand trembled as he took the pen. Brought it to paper. Everyone leaned forward, watching. Outside, Maria argued with guards at the gate who'd been ordered to detain her. Inside, Floyd's pen hovered over the signature line. Floyd. Sign. His hand lowered. I need to rest. Can't think. You don't need to think. Just write your name. Tired. Please. Just. Tired. The lawyer intervened, professional concern masking frustration. If he's too cognitively impaired to understand, we can't proceed. It would invalidate the proceeding. Sophia's fury turned glacial. Fine. We'll reconvene this evening. But this gets done today. Guards escorted Floyd back to his room. Through the window, he could see Maria at the guardhouse, trapped but not defeated. She was making a call, charming the guard into lending his phone. Calling someone. He didn't know who. Alone in his room, Floyd dropped the act completely. His reflection in the mirror showed what he'd become, a predator who'd played prey long enough. Tonight, he said to his own hard eyes, I end this. But first, I need to make sure Maria is safe. Afternoon sunlight slanted through Floyd's office windows, illuminating bottles worth thousands being poured like cheap beer. Marco and Luca had made themselves at home in what they already considered their domain, raiding the private collection Floyd reserved for closed deals and eliminated rivals. Their laughter carried the reckless edge of premature victory. Sophia had left to secure additional documents, leaving her sons alone with the brother they believed was helpless. The guards deposited Floyd in the corner chair, so family can keep an eye on him, and retreated. Marco raised a crystal tumbler, expensive whiskey slushing carelessly. To the idiots who thought we'd serve forever. Luca lifted his own glass, grinning. To our dear brother, who finally became useful by becoming useless. Floyd sat motionless, eyes vacant, the recording device Maria had planted in his shirt that morning capturing every word. The memory flashed unbidden, her hands shaking as she'd helped him dress, whispering, just in case. We need proof. He'd squeezed her hand in silent agreement. Now the device hummed against his chest, patient and hungry. Luca poured another round, loose and confident. You know what the best part is? What? We don't have to pretend anymore. He can't understand a word. He approached Floyd, waving his hand inches from his face. Can you hear me, Floyd? Do you know I hate you? Floyd's stare remained empty, glassy. Every muscle screamed to move, to strike, to end this. He forced himself still. Luca laughed, satisfied. See? Nothing. The great Floyd reduced to furniture. Marco settled deeper into Floyd's chair. His chair. Mother wants everything done cleanly. Legal. Boring. We should have just finished what I started. Luca's words carried weight that made Marco's smile falter. Wait. What? The ambush. Luca swirled his drink, studying the amber liquid. You think that was just rivals making a move? Marco's nervous laughter died quickly. Shut up, Luca. He might what? Understand. Luca gestured dismissively at Floyd. Look at him. Drooling infant, remember. The confession spilled out with drunken pride. I paid those guys $200,000. Gave them Floyd's route, his schedule, told them exactly where security would be weak. You. Marco's voice dropped to a whisper. You tried to have him killed. Tried. I did have him killed. He just refused to die properly. Luca's frustration bled through his words. Should have worked. Clean hit, no connection to us. We inherit everything without this legal circus. But no. Floyd's too tough, too lucky, survives with just a concussion. Then his brain breaks anyway. Irony. Floyd's hands gripped the chair arms with controlled force. The recording device caught it all, every admission, every casual dismissal of attempted murder, every word that would seal Luca's fate. Mother knows. Marco asked, somewhere between impressed and terrified. Hell no. She'd have a stroke. Too risky for her taste. What if he'd survived and remembered? Luca's answer came cold and certain. Then I'd try again. and again, until one stuck. You don't understand, Marco. Floyd was never going to step aside, never going to give us what we deserved. The only way to inherit was to make him step aside permanently. Marco processed this, ambition warring with self-preservation. But this is better, cleaner. Legal ownership. No investigation. Exactly. Luca refilled both glasses. Though I wonder. What happens when Mother has control? She won't share with us. Luca's smile carried dark implication. She's 70 years old, Marco. How long can she really run things? The office door burst open. Maria stood in the doorway, breathing hard, eyes blazing. Stop. All of this stops now. The brothers spun around, shock giving way to fury. Luca's hand moved toward his waistband. I thought we got rid of you. You tried to kill him. Maria stepped inside, voice shaking but resolute. His own brother tried to murder him. Understanding flooded Marco's face, followed by panic. Luca, she heard. Who'd believe a cleaner over us? Luca's calculation was ice cold. Predatory. He would. Maria's courage didn't waver. If he could understand. But I understand. I heard everything. Luca advanced, hand closing around the gun at his hip. Then you're a liability. Wait. Marco tried to control the situation spiraling into violence. We don't need. She's a witness to murder conspiracy. Luca drew the weapon with terrifying calm. She doesn't walk out of here. Maria backed against the wall. The gun rose. Floyd's body coiled, every instinct screaming to move, to protect, to drop this act and destroy them both. The mansion's front doors crashed open. Heavy footsteps thundered through the foyer. Floyd's security captain burst into the office with 6 armed men. His real security, the ones who'd bled with him, not the replacement Sophia had installed. Drop the weapon. Now. Luca froze, surrounded. Marco's face drained of color. The gun clattered to the floor as the captain's men disarmed both brothers with efficient brutality. Maria straightened, relief flooding her features. I called them. You're real men, Mr. Floyd. The ones who actually serve you. Luca's confusion was almost comical. Floyd's an invalid. He can't command. The captain's smile held no warmth. Can't he? All eyes turned to Floyd. He sat motionless for one more heartbeat, savoring their dawning horror. Then his hand moved to his shirt, deliberate and controlled, stopping the recording device. The small click echoed in the sudden silence. Evidence secured. Full confession captured. Floyd. Marco's voice cracked. Do you understand? Floyd let the silence stretch, watching them realize the truth. Watching comprehension transform into terror. You bastard. Luca's rage erupted. You've been faking this whole time? Floyd's head tilted slightly. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. They could see it now, the intelligence in his eyes, the predator who'd been watching from behind a mask of helplessness. 9 days of playing broken while collecting every word, every confession, every piece of damning evidence. Outside, a car door slammed. Through the window, Sophia emerged from her vehicle, documents in hand, impatient to finish what they'd started. The captain moved to intercept her at the entrance. Ma'am, you'll want to wait. Family meeting in progress. I'm the family. Her voice carried through the foyer. Let me through. The captain's satisfaction was audible. Not for long, you're not. Inside the office, the brothers stood disarmed and trapped, surrounded by men whose loyalty had never wavered. Maria stood safe. The recording device held their confessions. And Floyd, still silent, still watching, prepared to end 9 days of pretending with one devastating truth. His mother's footsteps approached the office door. Sophia swept into the office like she owned it, then froze. Her son stood flanked by armed guards. Maria was still present. And Floyd sat in the corner, watching. What's going on? Why is she still here? The captain gestured to a chair. Have a seat, Mrs. Moretti. Your son wants to speak with you. My son can't speak. Sophia's dismissal came automatic, practiced. He can barely remember his name. Her lawyer arrived moments later with fresh witnesses, eager to complete what the afternoon had interrupted. Everyone assembled. Full family, legal team, security, Maria. The incompetency papers spread across Floyd's desk again. Official and final. Let's finish this. Sophia's impatience bled through her composure. Floyd, we need your signature. The brothers stood silent under guard, exchanging looks heavy with dread. Floyd's hand reached for the pen. It trembled. Everyone assumed confusion. He brought it toward the paper. The entire room held its breath. The pen stopped an inch from the signature line. Long seconds stretched into eternity. Then Floyd's head rose slowly, his eyes finding his mother's face. Sharp, clear, intelligent. No confusion remained, only cold calculation that made her step backward. I remember everything. The room froze. Every person locked in place by those 3 words. Floyd. Sophia's face drained of color. Floyd stood. Full presence restored. Command radiating from him like heat from a forge. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority that had built an empire. Every single thing. Sweetheart, you're confused. 30 years. His words cut through her attempt at composure like a blade. You counted every day until you could take it from me. I don't know what you married my father for his money. Tolerated me for the same reason. I know. I heard you. In your study. The night you told your lawyer you never loved me. Shock transformed her features. That conversation was supposed to be private. Secret. Safe. I've heard everything. Seen everything. Floyd's revelation landed with devastating precision. For 9 days, I watched you all show me exactly who you are. Floyd, we can explain. Marco's protest came weak, desperate. Floyd turned to his brothers with contempt etched in every line of his face. Can you explain why you mocked me? Called me a drooling infant? Divided my territories like I was already dead. You. Luca's realization crashed over him. You were faking. The whole time. The amnesia. Yes. Floyd's confirmation carried no mercy. But my paranoia. That was real. And justified. Captain. Play it. The recording device connected to speakers. Luca's voice filled the office, damning and clear. I paid those guys 200 grand. Gave them Floyd's route. The full confession played. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Every word captured and preserved. Luca's face collapsed as he watched his destruction unfold in real time. I didn't know about that, Floyd. I swear. Marco tried to distance himself to salvage something from the wreckage. But you knew about stealing my assets. Dividing my empire. You just drew the line at murder. Floyd's contempt was absolute. How noble. This is entrapment. Sophia pivoted to legal defense, grasping for any foothold. Nothing said here is admissible. Floyd's real lawyer entered. Documents in hand. Actually, in this state, one-party consent for recordings is legal. Your son had every right to record conversations in his own home. The stack of evidence spread across the desk. Financial transfers traced. Unauthorized account access documented. Witness statements from loyal staff. Sophia's own words to her lawyer, also recorded, also damning. Floyd itemized their destruction with clinical precision. Mother, embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Marco, theft, conspiracy, accessory to attempted murder. Luca, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, theft. I'm your mother, Floyd. Sophia's final attempt carried desperation. You can't do this to family. You were his wife. Floyd's response devastated with its truth. You raised me because you were contractually obligated. But you were never my mother. A mother protects. A mother loves. You did neither. I gave you 30 years. You gave me nothing but lies. And now I'm giving you exactly what you deserve." Floyd's pronouncement fell like a judge's gavel. "All three of you are removed from any position in my organization. All access to accounts, properties, businesses, terminated. You leave with nothing. Not a dollar. Not a memory. Nothing. You can't take everything." "I can. And I am. My lawyers have been busy these 9 days. Every asset you thought you controlled? Back in my name. Every transfer you made? Reversed. Every plan you had? Destroyed." "Floyd, please." "We're blood." Marco's panic broke through. "Blood means nothing. I've learned that. The hard way." Luca lunged at Floyd with impotent rage. Security restrained him effortlessly. Floyd watched his brother's fury without flinching, unmoved by the violence he'd once commanded. "The organization won't follow you after this. They'll see weakness." Sophia played her last card. "The organization has known for 3 days. My captains, my soldiers, my real family in this business. I told them what I was doing. They've been watching. Waiting. Ready." Doors opened. More of Floyd's loyal men entered. The captain reported with satisfaction. "Sir, all family loyalists have been identified and removed. Organization is secure." "You planned this entire thing. The amnesia, the test, all of it." Sophia's realization came too late to matter. "I gave you every chance to show love. Instead, you showed me truth." Security escorted them toward the door. Sophia made one final plea. "Floyd, I'm your mother. You were an actress in my life. And your performance just ended." The brothers' threats of revenge fell on deaf ears. Luca's screaming, "This isn't over," echoed through the foyer. Floyd's certainty was cold and absolute. "Yes, it is." The gates closed behind them. 3 people who'd entered as owners left with nothing. Silence settled over the mansion like dust after battle. Floyd sat alone in his office, surrounded by evidence of betrayal. Exhaustion finally visible in the lines of his face. 9 days of acting. 9 days of watching. The toll showed now that the performance had ended. Maria waited outside, nervous, unsure of her place in this transformed world. "Maria, come in." She entered tentatively. For the first time, Floyd looked vulnerable without pretending. Real exhaustion, not manufactured confusion. Are you okay?" "I don't know." His honesty surprised them both. "I just lost my family." "You lost people who never loved you." Maria's wisdom came gentle but firm. "That's not the same as family." Floyd processed her words in the heavy silence. "Then what is family? If blood doesn't matter, what does?" Maria sat, not in the employee chair, but as an equal. "Family is people who stay when you have nothing to offer. Who care for you when you can't care for yourself. Who defend you when you can't defend yourself. You did all of that. For 9 days, you were more family than they were in 30 years. 3 years. Maria's correction held no accusation. "I've been caring for you for 3 years. You just never noticed." Shame colored Floyd's features. "I was blind. Looking for betrayal from enemies, missing loyalty right in front of me. I spent my life building power, commanding respect through fear, creating an empire no one could touch. And you were alone in all of it. Yes, until you showed me what I was missing." "What was that?" "Someone who sees the man, not the boss. The person, not the power." Floyd leaned forward, decision crystallizing. "I don't want a cleaner anymore, Maria." Fear flickered across her face. "I understand. After everything. I don't want an employee. I don't want someone working for me." He met her eyes. "I want family. Real family. Built on choice, not blood. On loyalty, not obligation." The proposition spilled out with rare vulnerability. "I'm changing. This empire, it's been built on violence and fear. I want to transform it. Legitimate businesses. Legal operations. Something that doesn't require looking over my shoulder. I need someone I trust. Someone who sees clearly. Someone who won't let me become what they were. Maria, I'm offering you partnership. Not employment. Partnership. I'm a cleaner. I don't know anything about. You know about character. About integrity. About choosing right over easy. That's more valuable than any business degree. Your organization won't accept me. A cleaner as you're. They'll accept who I choose. And I choose you. As partner. As advisor. As family. Maria's voice trembled. I'd be honored. Not romantic but deeper. Chosen family, formed in fire and tested by betrayal. Help me build something worth protecting. Not with guns and fear, but with purpose and trust. Then we start by helping others. The way I helped you. The way family should. Days later, the same office looked transformed. Maria sat where Sophia once commanded. Charts on the walls showed legitimate business ventures, charity initiatives, community programs. Photos of Floyd with community leaders replaced images of criminal enterprises. The captain entered. Sir, the last of the old guard has been transitioned. Organization is running smoothly. And the territories? Being converted to legitimate holdings, as you ordered. Some resistance, but your word is final. Maria's input came natural now, equal voice in decisions. What about the people who depended on the old operations? We can't just abandon them. Floyd considered, then nodded. She's right. Captain, create transition programs. Legal jobs for anyone who wants out of the life. That's going to cost millions. Then it costs millions. Family takes care of family. The captain left, respect visible for this different kind of leader. Floyd and Maria stood at the window overlooking the city. Sunset cast golden light across territories he once ruled through fear, now building through purpose. It's a beautiful city, when you're not seeing it as territories to control. I was blind in every direction. Blind to their betrayal. Blind to your loyalty. Blind to what actually matters. And now I see clearly. Family isn't who you're born to. Family is who refuses to leave when everyone else does. Maria smiled. So where do we start? Floyd's first real smile in years transformed his features. From scratch. Together. In a world where loyalty is bought and blood means nothing, Floyd learned the hardest lesson. True power isn't controlling others. It's trusting someone who could destroy you, and choosing to be vulnerable anyway. The most dangerous man in the city discovered the most dangerous truth. The greatest empire you can build isn't made of money or fear. It's made of people who stay, who care, who choose you when they don't have to. Sometimes, family isn't found in the people who share your blood. Sometimes, family is found in the person who cleans your home, defends your dignity, and shows you what love actually looks like. Floyd and Maria stood side by side. Equal partners. Two people choosing family, building something new from something broken. The sunset painted new beginnings across a city no longer an empire to rule, but a community to serve. Your mother was wrong about one thing. What's that? Love isn't a fairy tale. It's a choice. And you're choosing better. Floyd's hand found her shoulder. Familial, protective, chosen. Family not by blood, but by loyalty that proved stronger than any bloodline could ever be.